Hey, everybody, it's Anthony Pirozzi with my Inspiration and Motivation podcast. I'm here with my son, Vincent, who's just back from playing summer ball, collegiate ball in Kentucky. We're going to talk about his journey over the last couple years, and hopefully his journey will inspire and motivate one of you, whether it's in baseball or something else, and just how to pursue your passion. So, Vincent, why don't you tell me a little bit about the journey that you were on over the last, let's talk about the last couple years, your first year, when you decided to actually go back and try baseball again.
Right, so I had been out of playing baseball for 4 years, and COVID hit when I was at San Jose State, and I pulled me back home. And being in our environment, a lot of people, a lot of family started asking me like why I stopped playing baseball. It had been so long. You were a good pitcher. Why'd you do this? And it got me wondering why I did stop. Because when I did stop playing, I didn't really have a reason, and I couldn't look back at baseball and say that I actually gave it my full effort. So I started questioning that, and kind of led me to start trying again, start throwing the ball again, and seeing how my arm worked and doing little things. And from there, we had conversations, and as I graduated from San Jose State, you're like, okay, you got to play. Where are you going to go play at? And I didn't have an answer for that. So you helped lead me and said, well, give Lefty a call. Lefty Olgin. Olgin or Olgin?
Olgin.
Olgin, yeah. Sorry, Lefty. But yeah, and then he referred me to Coach Shannon at Compton. I gave Coach Shannon a call, and he said, yeah, absolutely, we'll give you an opportunity. And at that time, I had been throwing for a year by myself and with people that I met up with and so forth, and ended up pitching there for a year. And then the conversation came about again, well, what's next from you? And I was like, I don't know. And so you said, you got to play summer ball, get looked at and things like that. And I ended up asking Coach Shannon where I should play, and he referred me to Palm Springs Collegiate League. And from there, I had a teammate who is at the school I'm at right now, Point University, and referred me to there. His pitching coach was there, saw me pitch, and gave me an offer to play at their school last year. So I've been there for a year. I was injured last year, had an elbow sprain, so I didn't get to play, but came back home. And then this summer I played in Kentucky, the Ohio Valley League, which is really cool. Got to play in, I think it was 5 or 6 different states. Or I visited 9 total if you include Cali, Alabama, and Georgia, is where I live now for school. But yeah, I played in different states, got to go to League of Their Own Stadium and play where that movie was filmed. It was a really cool summer, very enjoyable, and it's been quite a journey. Yeah, so that's what it's been up until now.
So, but along the way, you decided you wanted to play, and coming out of COVID, you start working out, and we had a pretty passionate exchange about what's next. And so that's when Lefty talked about Compton. But even more importantly, it was really trying to look ahead after Compton and go, what's next? And that's why when I talk through the podcast, it's like, are we taking time today to plan for tomorrow? And I think that was something for you as well. And that got into the conversation about playing in Palm Springs. And as you said, that led to where you are today. Yeah. The other was, we've talked about relationships, and it was your Compton coach who called you to play in Kentucky. So you had seemed like a good relationship with him for him to give you a call after you left Compton to play the summer. So talk about that a little bit.
I'm glad you pointed that out because I did miss that, and that is important. So Coach Markey, he's the assistant coach at Compton, who I built that relationship with him, very friendly guy, and I asked him actually when I was at Compton, because I heard he had this summer league. He coached out in Kentucky my first year there. I asked him about that summer league, and he's like, well, guys really refer their players to me, and I kind of already have a roster. And so asking him that, gave him the opportunity to say no, right? Like if I didn't ask him, he can't say yes or no, right? So just kind of putting that in his head, I guess, planting the seed, you could say, made him think about me the following year, because he gave me a call after a year at Point. And so once I transferred to Point, and I hadn't played yet, but he knew I was at a higher level, he called me and asked me if I wanted to pitch. So, yeah, it was awesome that he reached out to me and wanted me to pitch for him, and thought about me for his team the following year. You never really know what asking questions about your future, trying to advance, might do for you. So, yeah, it wasn't quite then that at that time that I had asked him, but a year later he asked me to play for him.
So I think what's important too is the network as you're going through this experience, is the people you meet along the way and keeping good relationships with them in order to see where that takes you in the future, which in this case took you to Kentucky. So let's talk a little bit about, excuse me, about your experience last year. So you mentioned, I think you mentioned that you were not able to play because you got injured. You had to overcome adversity there. So let's talk a little bit about, what happened, what you learned, and how you bounced back in order to be ready to play in Kentucky.
Right. So it started last December, a year ago this December. I had hopped on a program with Tread Athletics and wanted to start advancing in velocity is something that's huge in baseball now, and trying to get a planned program to advance my career in baseball. And so I started that, and I think I ramped up too quickly, and that led to a sprain in my UCL, a little like a ligament in the UCL, not even quite the UCL, and left me out for a little while. It was supposed to be a month to 2 month recovery. It was kind of tough because I was here for that month, and then I would go back to Georgia to play ball, and I had to switch who I was with, physical trainers, to get me healthy. And so I go back over there and building up, getting healthy, and then I re-injure it in February. I believe it was like the 25th or something like that. It was late February. And so then I got to start the whole process over again, and thinking and that I was going to be healthy, expecting that I was going to be healthy, and then not. It was tough. It was really tough. And from then I learned just not to really expect anything. Of course, put the work in, trust your process, but don't expect, because then it just led me down. It let me down. I let myself down because I had expectations. But from there it was just faith, really, and trusting in God. I'm being raised in a Catholic family. I'm trying to implement that in my life a little bit more. But praying and trusting in God, asking Him to guide me through healing and everything. And from there I continued to build up after the second time injured, and then coming home, starting to throw again, and getting ready for Kentucky, ensuring that my coach who asked me to come play was going to have a pitcher ready to go, and I was eventually, and I trusted that. And sometimes now, being healthy, I feel myself almost taking advantage of that and forgetting, trying to remember. Don't forget what it was like not to be able to throw, not to be able to do what you love every single day, and just enjoy right now when I'm in those times of throwing, because it's such a short time period for when you're just throwing a ball, and you could look at it as just that, you're just throwing a ball, but there's a lot of work that goes into it, and just trust in God that the process is going smoothly, really.
So let's talk a little bit about that, with faith and stuff, because when you're, when people hear that you're going to school in Georgia, you're actually living in Alabama. So Vincent lives right on the Alabama-Georgia state line, an hour south of Atlanta. So when he leaves for school, it's like 10 a.m. When he crosses the border over there, a mile down the street, it's 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's pretty unique.
Yeah. So it sounds pretty cool when you tell people where you're at, but deep down inside, it could be difficult because family's not just a couple hour drive away. It's a flight to Atlanta. It's, an hour drive south. And so there's times where you're by yourself, you're with your teammates. You're from California. Most of the guys you play with are from the South. So it's, and you're Catholic, and most people in the South are probably not Catholic that right? Yeah. So just briefly talk about the whole experience and transition and adapting to a new environment.
It's been different for sure. First getting over there, I was thinking about that recently. When I'm going back this time, what I was thinking a year ago. I had no idea what to expect.
Neither do we.
Just as like anyone from what I feel like, maybe even San Pedro specifically, or California in general, going to the South, I had no idea what to expect. I was like, there's excitement and nervousness, all those emotions are going through you. But having been there for a year, you get used to it, you understand, you grow. And my roommate's from Mississippi, so I got a lot of the Southern hospitality, and I learned a lot from him, being roommates with him and adapting to the Southern culture. But yeah, as far as faith goes, learning from those different denominations and things like that, and a lot of friends on the team that aren't Catholic. I have one that I go to mass with every Sunday, which is really cool. That I found out through actually those other the kids that aren't Catholic. They were like, "Oh, this kid is. You could invite him to mass if you want to go with him. You should go." And then I did, and now I have a buddy to go with when I'm there, right? And just asking questions too. There was a kid who started a Bible study every Tuesday night, and I found out through those little things, asking, well, what do you guys do? What do you believe? How does church work as far as you guys go? And I was like, oh, this is how we do it. That's how you do it. We're on a mutual ground of understanding, and just learning by that. I think, we're always right where God wants us to be, and I believe that He placed me in the South because I'm a very hands-on learner, right? Like, I learn from understanding conversations and things like that, and I got that right away and learning that. And as far as living on my own, it was different for sure, but I know that when I left, you told me that it was going to build my relationship with God even more, and trusting Him, go to Mass, pray, and things like that. I try and do that every day because I feel like that is something that has kept me calm and whole, and knowing that I'm never alone, that He's always with me, and that I'm going to be okay regardless. And so at some point in time, I will be back here in San Pedro to see you, Mom, Tone, and Lou, and all of the rest of the family. And it's a blessing when I get to do that. So for the time out there, you just continue to grow and learn.
Yeah, because you've been gone more than you've been home.
Yeah, the past year, yeah. I have.
Yeah, so that's good. I mean, I think it's important. Well, just for the listener, that having faith in your life is important. So I'm glad you've grown in faith. Obviously, that's important to our family, and that's great. So let's talk about this upcoming season. You still have a couple years of eligibility. You only have 4 classes left for your master's.
Yeah.
There was a time you weren't sure you even wanted to go to college, but we talked about that, so you're welcome. And then, so what do you expect for this year? So, you're going to be leaving here in a couple weeks. You've been working out again,
Right.
trying to get focused. You've got a new roommate moving in. There's going to be, instead of you and your other roommate, you're going to have a third. So what's kind of your expectations for this being your last year at Point University and maybe being in the South for some time,
Yeah, it's exciting for sure. I try and do as best as I can to live in the moment, live right now. Not to overwhelm myself with those thoughts and the process, but the mindset is to go over there and just work as hard as I can and earn a spot. Right, me and my coach and I have had that conversation. Nothing is just given to you. You got to earn a spot, right? And that's the goal, is to really earn my spot. He's a good coach. He gave a kid an opportunity that he had never seen pitch, but he trusted his pitching coach to bring him out. He helped me get my home and all these things, and
yeah, that's right.
yeah,
he
did. He really
found
did
out
it.
for us.
He took a chance on a kid and ended up getting injured, and I want to work and prove that I'm worth that chance.
Yeah.
So there's that. As far as baseball, with the new roommate, is a kid that I grew. He's a really good friend of mine when I'm out there and can talk to him about anything. We play golf a lot. Nice kid, and I'm excited to see how he is living with him. Right, Slade and I, my roommate, didn't know each other at all. We were kind of put in just this home by our coach, and that was a whole learning process. But now to have somebody join that both him and I know and are friends with, it's going to be cool because we'll all kind of know each other, and been with Slade for a year, so I kind of understand how we both work. And yeah, that's going to be good. Maybe have more guys over and more community building, team bonding kind of thing. and try and really be a leader, in all honesty. And that's something I've been learning in my life, is to try and lead as best as I can. It's been something that you've taught us. You always have that saying, I'm raising men, not boys. I try to become a man, right? What is my image of a man? And I think leadership is one of those qualities that is there for me. So practice that. Of course, I'll grow in faith more, and just develop as a better baseball player and a better pitcher.
So let's just close out with some fun stuff. So with your trip, you've talked about baseball, your journey, but you've also been fishing. You've taken a dirt road out to the middle of nowhere with your buddies. You've eaten was it deer sausage or something?
Deer sausage.
All these. So just briefly talk about the cultural experiences you've had. Going to the lake and things like that. A lot of things that you hear in country songs, you've kind of been doing. So why don't you briefly talk about that? We'll close it out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because I'd been listening to country for since COVID started and everything, and I began to start thinking, what would it be like to live in a small town and live that country life? And I'm blessed with the opportunity to go out there and have done that for a year. So having done it, it's relaxing. It's everything they talk about, everything you live, and it's calming. I've grown in patience and experiencing, like wetting the line, going fishing, and all those things that I didn't really do growing up. Going down a dirt road, going down that back road, and with a local kid out there and doing those kinds of things, trying new foods, and having your roommate be like, "You never had deer sausage?" It's like, dude, I've never seen a deer. And and that deer sausage is delicious, by the way. But yeah, all those things, it's a blessing, is what it is, to have experienced that. And
well, you also experienced a tornado.
Yeah, that was
How close
wild
was that to your house at
It was
touchdown?
about 5 miles away from my house, and that was eye-opening. Was what it was, knowing that it passed right there. And I was coming home a week or two later, and I might not have been going home.
Well,
it's eye-opening.
Yeah, it's funny about that, because when we had just left you, maybe a few weeks prior, we went down to the reservoir lake that's over there or whatnot. I think it's probably a dammed-in lake bed or something. And you drove us down in this 2-lane, and we went down to all these homes. And then on the news, we saw that, this was national news, that where this tornado hit. It was actually on Channel 7 News, and Carolyn and I, your mom and I, were like, that was really close. And I think you called us and told us, and then we saw it on the news, or had heard about it on the news, and then you called us. But and then you drove back down that street, and you took video. Tell us what you saw.
If anyone watching has ever been to Universal Studios and seen like the scene where they do it's a fake airplane crash, that's what it was like, but real.
Yeah, it's from that one movie. I forgot.
I don't know what the movie is.
Yeah, I forgot the name.
That's what it was. Funny. I was with another kid who's from Palm Springs. Him and I drove out there, and he's like, "That's what this looks like." I was like, "Oh, that's what I was thinking about." It's just wild to see, a tree trunk as wide as our jacuzzi just split in half.
Yeah.
It's just.
The houses were destroyed.
House destroyed. Yeah. That something could have that power over it, and I've never experienced it in my life, a tornado.
And then you're seeing some houses that are destroyed and others that are fine because of the way the tornado went through. But you heard the alarm that morning. You didn't know what it was at first, or did you?
Yeah, and that was that tornado. The tornado that tore up that little part of the town had already been passed. I wasn't even awake for that. And then the sirens go off, I think 5 hours later for a second one that came. And my roommate's coming home from an away game, and he had food poisoning, so he's throwing up in the bathroom, and like waking up, putting my clothes on, going to the bathtub, and I'm like seeing him, and I'm like, what do I do? This is a mess. Like, it didn't hit our home, luckily, and it was just, man, it was just so many emotions going through, and to come home, be safe, that I was coming home the next couple weeks, and just to hug my family again, and it meant even more than it would have if that didn't happen. But it's just quite the experience to see that in person.
So, what would you, to close this out here, this segment, what would you leave the listeners as your kind of message in regards to your experience and your journey over the last couple years? What would you, from an inspiration and motivation perspective, what would you say to those listening here today?
Well, I'll try my best to put it as well as I can, but I would say just keep going. Really, just keep going, and because you don't know what something might lead to. There's been a lot of what we talked about today, just asking questions and trying to advance in my career of baseball, and it led me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
And even today, I still have questions about what's next,
Mm-hmm.
right, and where I'm going. Just trusting the process. I attribute everything to faith and what I'm doing now and trusting God.
Mm-hmm.
If that's not somebody that's watching his cup of tea, it's okay. They can just trust their process and what they're doing with their life and know that it's going to work out regardless. And, yeah, just keep going. Keep pushing and keep fighting.
All right, Vincent, thank you. So, everybody, I hope you learned something today. I learned something today, too, about my son, just sitting here talking. And if you haven't watched some of the previous episodes, there's a lot of themes that you hear in today's conversation that I've tried to put out there in previous episodes. So with that, we'll say thank you for joining. Never give up on your dreams. Follow your passion. And there's a big element of faith. And for me personally, I always ask God to guide me to where he needs me. And so that's kind of been my thing regarding faith for many decades now. So whatever's guiding you, just follow that passion and never give up on your dreams. So have a great day. Thanks for joining, and God bless.